Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back again with another lesson. Just got a request from End Times teacher to go over Revelation 17. And so I just thought I would do that. I've talked about this, 17 and 18 in different videos, in the past, but I'll just go through it with sort of a fresh set of eyes and then, just talk through it. I want people to know that this sequence of the end times that I teach is found everywhere in the Bible. It'll be found even in kind of subtle ways, but it will never be violated. And I want people to know that. And then I'll show that again here, that it's consistent. And then we'll talk about a couple important topics like, Mystery Babylon here is the focus of Revelation 17 and 18. And it's not a mystery, for anybody. It shouldn't be in the days that we live in. And, the sequence of the end times, the mark of the beast, reincarnation, and all these kind of things are all in this condensed, chapter. Very, very powerful chapter. And the title is called The Great Prostitute and the Beast. And so we'll go into that. And, again, I want people to know, and I'll put the links below for my, breakdown of Revelation and, the succinct one, and then a little bit more detail, and then the longer video. That sequence is what I believe I received on the first day of this year. And Revelation 17 is a major part of that, because just to set the stage for this, it's right after Revelation 16, and 11 and 16 are sister chapters. And so this is happening right after Revelation 16 is done, where the two witnesses have been in the U.S., in America, Mystery Babylon, for 1,260 days. And then this beast that's described here has killed them. And so they're taken away, And so now God has literally cleaned out America of all the people that are on his right-hand side. And now it's going to be destroyed, and burned. And then that's going to happen here. And so from 16 onwards, the book of Revelation is sequential. And so just be aware of that. It's not up to that. And it's confusing, to read it. And like I've said in those videos below, 7, 14, and 21 are summary chapters. And so it's like kind of like an intermission sort of thing. And so just be aware of that. So the structure of Revelation is absolutely incredible to me, and that kind of thing. And so, I'll go through this. Keep in mind the sequence that I believe that came from God on the first day of this year was that God's elect are always taken away. So anytime you read anything in the Bible, that whether it's meant to or not, talking about the end times, it always talks about God's elect or the saints or the chosen first. Even if it's not saying they're explicitly delivered, it'll mention them in some way. And so that's always there, and then that's here. And then it's going to talk about plagues, a period of 1,260 days of wrath. And then at the end of that, America is destroyed. And that's what's kind of zoomed in and outlined here. And then after that, it's Christ returning with his elect, and his angels to have this battle in Armageddon. And then that's also stated here. And so even though this chapter is part of that sequence, within this chapter, it goes into that sequence. It's kind of like a setup chapter to the next one, which describes America, Mystery Babylon in more detail. But this is an incredibly powerful chapter. And, let's go through it. Revelation 17. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, and then, this is afterwards. So we get the language that it's sequential as well, just from the very first word. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute, who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk. And so this place that's about to be judged has to be the source of the sexual immorality on earth. Their philosophies and their wine, which is described later, has permeated the entire earth. And so now, just from that line right away, those 2 verses, we know it's America. Like, there's no debate. Anybody else who says Mystery Babylon is anything but America is mentally ill. That's just the times that we live in now. It's amazing that God has made these truths so obvious. And so that alone, we know right away it's America. Done. And so that's easy. And so thankfully in this chapter, and then the next one for sure, if you had any doubt, read 18, and I can do a video on that if people want me to. It's absurdly clear. And so this quote unquote great prostitute is America, so just know that. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. the symbolism here is incredible. And so first of all, this place is effeminate because it's described as a woman. And so that's everywhere in America. And again, like in the entire world now, where a man literally cannot be a man. And so that's just a result of this permeating of these philosophies. But here in verse 4 has a golden cup. So the quote prized possession, you know how people hold up a trophy or whatever? This place holds up a trophy, and in it is impurities and sexual immorality. And so this place, again, proves that it's America, holds that in high regard. Like it's literally holding up, you know, like a trophy, a cup full, golden cup full of abominations and impurities. So it's going to exalt, this is what it's kind of using symbolic language. It's going to exalt these things, you know, sexual impurity and immorality and all that kind of stuff. And so again, it's America. And so it's very, very obvious. Verse 5, and on her forehead was written a name of mystery. And so now this is, again, the book of Revelation is completely consistent. So on her forehead, if this person represents like, you know, the leadership structure in America and all that kind of stuff, it's their ideologies, you know. And so that's what is used here to describe, you know, this woman. And that was arrayed in purple and scarlet. Purple and scarlet, again, I want people to know that, just a quick point on that, Revelation is meant to deceive certain groups of people. And so people are going to read that and be like, oh, it's the Vatican or it's a Pope, he wore a purple shirt or something like that. So the book of Revelation is meant to confuse people. Just know that. And so it's just obvious. And so certain people in the past, or even people now, will read this and take that one line and just go run with it and be like, okay, well, it's got to be something else. And so just know that. For people with just common sense, know that purple and scarlet are terms that are used to describe like rulership, you know, and leadership and all that. And so this place is going to be the quote ruler or leader of the world, and everybody's going to follow along with it. And then the beast is giving it that power. And so just know that that's the whole narrative of this entire chapter. And so again, that's America. And so just know that. And it's going to be adorned with gold and jewels and pearls. And so it's going to be like wealthy. And so it's pretty easy to be wealthy when you're printing all the money and deciding who it goes to. And so again, it's America. And so it's very, very obvious. But the verse 5, and on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon, the great mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. You know, John the Revelator is seeing this vision, but that also forehead is meant to describe like philosophies, you know, and ideologies, and then more specifically God's left-hand side, which is the beast. You know, that's one of the major take-home messages of this chapter is that, you know, just know that. And so mark of the beast is meant to identify God's left-hand side. Like that's the whole point of it. And so that's what God is doing to, hopefully to us who are on his right-hand side. He's allowing us to see it, you know, and then certain people have to see more of it to believe it. And so just know that. And so I don't need a mark of the beast or anything. I can find out if somebody's on God's left-hand side in like a 30-second conversation. You just start reading the Bible and then they'll run away. Oh, I got to go. And so, okay, well then that's easy. And so you can pretty much do that with anybody now. It's amazing. And so that means the Bible has power. And it has the ability to identify God's right-hand side just by simply reading out of it. It's amazing. And so I recommend people try it if they haven't. And so just know that language of like on the forehead is again consistent with Revelation 13. It's representing these ideologies and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, John the Revelator is seeing that this woman is like proud of all of her things and like, you know, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. Like she's just proud of it. Verse 6, and I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs and Jesus. And so the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And so this is important now. Okay, so this place now has to be a place where saints have died. And so they just did. Two of them, you know, with the two witnesses, Moses and Elijah, they were killed with their feet on the ground here in America. And so that's what verse 6 is talking about. And so the blood of the martyrs of Jesus, the mixed multitude have also, some of them have had their feet here in America. And then they were sloughed off, you know, because they refused the mark of the beast. And so this place is a scene of a crime, a massive crime. And it's literally just happened. And then that's what we're being told in verse 6. And again, not a coincidence that's in verse 6. 6 is always talking about deception or evil and all that kind of stuff. And so just know that. And so, but now thinking about that sequence that I taught and I was received on the first day of this year, we have a reference to the blood of the saints. And so it always will reference the saints first, always. And so just know that. And so check. That's the first thing. Good. And so now, next, when I saw her, I marveled greatly, but the angel said to me, why do you marvel? I tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. The beast that you saw was and is not and is about to rise from the bottomless pit and go to destruction. This beast represents God's left-hand side, and it's a network of people. That's it. It's just God's entire left-hand side, and they're all basically just actors. Just know that, and we know that now. It's like, I don't know how to make it more obvious. Like atheists know that there's actors everywhere, and so that's what it is. And so just know that there was a time that you saw was and is not and is about to rise from the bottomless pit, means that there is this one world government that's now forming. And so if you look at the first woe, Revelation 9 verse 11, that is now also referring, it's referring to this as well. And so is about to rise from the bottomless pit. Think about that verse as well. That is the first woe, and that is when there is now, let me read Revelation 9:11 because it's again relevant to this. That's when we all knew, people now know that there's a one world government in place. That was like a ritual, a ceremony, whatever it was, CGI or whatever. Revelation 9:11, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. Again, that's the same language, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. So that is their sort of like ritual of letting us know that there's a one world government officially in place. It was already in place, but we know it now, and all that kind of stuff. And so just know that. So that's a major part of the beast. And so the beast that you saw was and is not and is about to rise. Now that's visible of a one world government. And that one world government is God's entire left-hand side. Just know all these people are actors. And I'm not talking about just Putin and Trump and all that. It's all the people that think that they're something. Like, we know that they're just straight actors. And so we just let them go and act at a distance, and all that. A lot of the truth community are actors too. And so we know that. And so we're just waiting. We're literally just killing time until God comes and then kills time. And so just know that. And so that verse is linked to Revelation 9:11. Just know that. And so that's the same language. And it's not by coincidence. It's talking about the bottomless pit. It's talking about a one world government. And the dwellers on earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world will marvel to see the beast. That's all of God's left-hand side. Because it was and is not and is to come. And so this is the time where God has officially given the earth into the hands of the wicked. And so it's a one world government. And we're going to actually read that here as well. That is official. And that's what it's talking about, the beast. Everybody on God's left-hand side are in alignment. They're all actors, and they're just playing their role according to God. And so just know that. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. So this woman is going to have underlying nations that are under its kind of rule, and subjection and all that. And that's through the money system and these philosophies and everything like that. And so America can only be propped up if other nations are complicit, in its power and giving it that power. China, India, and all that kind of stuff. And so just know that they're all in alignment. And so just be aware of that. Again, this verse is meant to confuse people so they think it's Rome or something like that. I saw a hangout with a good servant who's an idiot. And so these stupid people will come in and cherry pick one verse and not look at the preponderance, the absurd amount of evidence just in this one, just in the verse that I've already read. We know it's America, much less reading the next chapter, Revelation 18, which absolutely puts every nail, in the coffin. That's absolutely a done deal. It's sealed that it's obviously America. And so just know that. And so this language is meant to be for certain people to go and get misled, and who cares? They're all part of the beast system anyway, so let them pontificate. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come, and when he does come, he must remain only a little while. So this is talking about the rising up, and all these different nations and the power structures that are underlying America's power in the last days. This is also extremely consistent with 2nd Ezra, of course, talking about, America's rise and then ultimate demise. And so just know that. Every prophetic book that talks about a power structure in the end times is referring to America. Verse 11, as for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, but it belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. Verse 12, and the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. And so this is the hour of temptation. This language is used also again in Revelation 3. But that's a time period that the Church of Philadelphia is exempt from. That's God's elect. And so that is the 1 hour, and so this is also referring to the hour where America's judgment will come. Death, mourning, and famine, and then she shall be burned with fire. And so this is a 1260-day period where God is literally officially destroying America through the 2 witnesses administering the plagues in Revelation 16. And then that's also talked about here where they're really going to be one, and we see what's going on right now, how this thing has popped up and everybody just agrees with it. Everybody in the world's like, oh yeah, it's a real thing, yada, yada, yada. And so just know that they're receiving this authority from God for a very brief time period of 1 hour, which is 1260 days. Verse 13, these are of one mind. It's a one world government. We're told that explicitly here in verse 13. And so just know that these are of one mind. And they hand over their power and authority to the beast. So any individual nations and their quote personalities, they hand it over to the objectives of the one world government, which is the beast. And so just know that. And so we're told that again here, and it's made very, very specific. And so the authority, the agenda of the beast is the most important thing. These nations are not really squabbling, and we know that because of the flat earth, or the fake moon landing, or the money system, whatever. Like, there's many different ways we know that there's a one world government in place. But just know that. And the reason that they're consolidating that authority or a narrative is to fulfill these words. Just know that. That's the whole point. God's behind it. Verse 14, they will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. Look at this. And those with him are called chosen and faithful. So when the Lamb returns, this is another of the many, many references, which these Hebrews have no idea what's going on. Definitely the Christian church don't know what's going on. Those with him are called chosen and faithful. So God is returning with the elect. And so just know that. And then this verse also proves reincarnation, because we just read in verse 6, the saints they're dead, like the two witnesses. And so how can God return with the saints when we were just told that this place is drunk with the blood of the saints? How's that possible? And so if they're not, quote, reborn and then return, to fight, and destroy the remaining of God's left-hand side on the earth. And so this again proves reincarnation as well. And then it also proves that God's elect have to have been taken away prior to this, all of these plagues and this 1 hour, of great tribulation. And so just know that it's incredibly consistent. I won't find an exception to that sequence of those links that I post below. You will not. And so all you're going to do is have more examples of that in the Bible. That's all you're going to find. And so I would recommend people go and do it. It's kind of fun, but you'll see it here, you'll see it everywhere. And so it's what it is. Don't shoot the messengers. That's what the Bible says. And so I find these things still outlandish, but it makes sense. These are God's judgments, and we're going to read that. Don't come here and get angry at me because you live in America or you hate Americans, whatever. No, this is God's judgment. I don't hate every American. What are you talking about? I didn't come up with this idea. Hey, you know what? I'm going to make a place called America, be a melting pot. And, just down the road, I'm going to hate the things that their leadership do. And I'm just going to burn the whole place. Really? That's an idea I came up with, or you came up with? Are you kidding me? It's not funny, but don't be stupid. This is what the God of the Bible says. And then God has given us as a gift the ability to interpret these words. And we want whatever he wants. So if you don't want that, go away. And so we want this. And so I live in America. We need this ground to be burned for the God of the Bible to exist and to be not a liar and to follow through with what he says, or else he's a liar, or he changed his mind, or he doesn't care. We don't want that. We want God to fulfill his words, and then we want exemption from these things because this is bad, really bad. And so this fire that we're going to talk about is not fake fire for all you people out there. I know why you guys don't want to believe that it's fire, because you dummies believe that hell is some furnace in spiritual la la land where God burns people. And so if anybody out there who doesn't believe the Bible, God's going to show you the Bible. You know what I mean? All of us. If we don't believe Christ hung on the cross, or we don't believe that God cares about the poor, we don't care that God judges people and cares about sin, all that, God's going to show us. He's like, okay, you think that fire is symbolic or metaphoric or whatever? God will be like, okay, how does it feel? And we don't want to be there, because if you're burned with this fire, which is the lake of fire, Christ's body and soul are destroyed. So you're on God's left-hand side. God has literally preserved you to just destroy you. And so just know that. That's what it is. I don't want any part of that, of course. Absolutely not. And so this fire that we're about to read is not symbolic. It's real fire. And so just know that. And so all you Bible non-literalists out there, you better hope that the entire Bible is not true. And so just hope and pray for that, I guess. Pray to Satan, I guess. That kind of thing. But we want these words to come true desperately. And so this is not our judgment. This is not our hatred towards America or anything like that. Who cares? What difference does it make? If I like or dislike or sort of like it or whatever, who cares? It's what God wants. And we want that. And we want that more and more every single day with what's going on in the world. Verse 15, and the angel said to me, the waters that you saw were the prostitute. Right? Just the way that God talks about this place. What do you think? Do you think God's anxious to do this or not? Just look at, like, he doesn't even call it like Mystery Babylon, he calls it a prostitute. And so what do you think that, is God the God that's being presented out there with these Hebrew Israelites who will, Tahar and these people using money to go get prostitutes and all that? God's using the term prostitute here to describe a place that he's about to burn with nuclear fire. And so these morons have the gall to go and like call themselves the two witnesses when God hates these people. And he's preparing this lake of fire for them. And so just know that. I'll read it again. And the angel said to me, the waters that you saw where the prostitute is seated and are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. Again, we're talking about a place that two layers, at least 2 layers. They have to have their kind of no snooping and being in everybody's backyard in all their waters, the Navy presence. And then they also have to, the country itself has to be a melting pot of multitudes of nations and languages and all that kind of stuff. And so that's America. There's no other place on earth that is this mixed and diverse, and then it has all this power to influence people through Hollywood and the news media and all that kind of stuff, the music, propaganda and all that kind of stuff. And so this, just by this alone, we know it's America. Just these verses in isolation prove that we're reading about America, modern day America. And so if America does not receive the judgments that are prescribed for it here and really in the entire book of Revelation, then the God of the Bible does not exist. Just know that. And so, or there's like a 1 in a trillion% chance that a place like this is going to get rebuilt down the road, and I've completely eliminated that possibility. That's crazy. That's not 1 generation away. That's like hundreds of lots of generations. And then who knows what the world's going to, who knows, like there'll even be people that'll all just be like robots or AI or something. So God, this place has to receive these judgments for the God of the Bible to exist. And we want that desperately. Even if we have to be destroyed, it's fine. Verse 16, and the 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. So all these other power structures will be in agreement with the beast, which is God's left-hand side, this one world government. Then they will go and turn their back on America. And so just know that. And then who's going to do this? God. We're going to read that. They will make her desolate and naked and devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And so this God's left-hand side, which is, again, think of this as a movie. We're literally reading what God is doing with his left-hand side. We don't want to be a part of this, obviously. And so that's what God is doing, with the characters on his left-hand side. And just know that. And so they're doing it to fulfill these words because they're under his control, ultimately. So just know that. And we're told by Jesus himself in Matthew 10:28 that body and soul can be destroyed by this fire. And so God's entire left-hand side, the physical people, the soul that's in them, and all the souls of God's left-hand side here are going to be destroyed in this lake of fire. And so just know that. This is God literally cleaning up the stage and then getting it ready for the kingdom of heaven. Just know that. And so, but first they have to have a battle in the Middle East, like we read in verse 13. And so just know that. And so this is God literally wiping out his entire left-hand side, and they all have the mark of the beast, an actual physical mark or in their mind, in their forehead. Just know that. Verse 18, and the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. And so that again proves that it's America. And so to me, you could literally read every single verse and just read it in isolation and know that it's America. And you can ask anybody, like just a basic understanding of the world, who is the ringleader, so to speak, of all the evil and deception on earth, and it's America. And so this to me is an incredible chapter. We're talking about a relatively, concise, chapter, and just powerful stuff. And so again, the sequence of the end times is reaffirmed here. It's very obvious. It tells us here there's a one world government, like I said in verse 13, they're of one mind. And so everybody on God's left-hand side are in alignment. And so when the Hebrew Israelites and all these people, Ken Hovind, they're all ball earthers and they don't want to talk about anything that's not in the mainstream news, that means they're part of that. Just know that. And so that may be hard for some people to believe, but not for me. I know Ken Hovind and Pastor Anderson and Tahar and all these people are on God's left-hand side. I know that. And so I'm just killing time, and I think other people know that too. They're actors. Ken Hovind is a Satanist. I would say that right to his face, and all that kind of stuff. And so God's right-hand side there's very few of them out there, and we hope to be in that group. And so God doesn't care. Can any of these words happen if even just a good percentage of the earth were on God's right-hand side? How would they do this? I'm gonna be the one who's gonna design a missile to go and shoot to them. Are you kidding me? I'll be like, no, I'm not doing that. And so most people won't do that. That's crazy. And so all of these people, they're just actors. And so the amount that we sin, God dips us into that. And so that's his judgment. And so God's like, don't do it anymore. Like it says, we're like, if I do Revelation 18:4 says, come out of her, my people. Don't be partakers of these sins, especially if you live in America, because they permeated the whole earth. So those sins are everywhere. God's like, come out. You've quote unquote paid your punishment, your dues, come out. And then if you come out, that identifies you as somebody who, if you're predestined for that, to be rescued prior to all these things happening. And so just know that. And so that's what's going on. All these people are just actors. And it's a majority of the earth. 99.9999% of the earth are just a part of this beast system. And then if you tell them one or two truths, they'll run. They'll literally just run as fast as possible, because that goes against the beast. And then they're shilling for the beast, which is a one world government. And then they don't want that. They're not allowed to. They're not programmed to accept the truths that God's right-hand side, which again, we hope to be a part of, we accept them like they're just obvious. Like how could anybody not accept these things? That kind of thing. And so just be aware that Revelation 17 is an incredible chapter, reaffirms the sequence of the end times, reaffirms reincarnation. And, these days, these things being fulfilled, in my opinion, are very, very close. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.